We go. Oops, totally dark. Hello, everybody. We are. This is this Wednesday, September 28th episode here of Between Two Teachers, and where we talk about all the issues in education, local and national, and sometimes international. So we have a lot of interesting things to talk to you about what's going on today. And my name is Consuelo Lara.
And I'm Madeline Cronenberg. And as always, I will begin with our land acknowledgement. We pause to acknowledge that we have gathered on the ancestral territory of Huichin, which is part of the unceded land of the Chochenyo and Karkin speaking Muwekma Ohlone people. We remember their continued connection to this region and give thanks to them for allowing us to live, work, learn, and pray on their traditional homeland, and offer our respect to their elders and all the Ohlone people of the past and present. And we ask you to realize that there are ways that we can help the Muwekma Ohlone people in their fight to become federally recognized so that they will have the benefits of being a federally recognized tribe. And for a number of complicated reasons, they do not have that recognition now, and the fight continues. So if you just Google Justice for Muwekma, or just go to look at our Facebook page, there are links there, but Google Justice for Muwekma and you'll see what you can do to help the Ohlone Muwekma people gain their federal recognition and the benefits that go with it. And the other thing is to make sure that wherever you are, you advocate for having within your school district the opportunity to learn the true native curriculum of the land that you live on. That's been overlooked for so many years by so many districts. It's a very important part of the story of who we are, and our children deserve to hear it. And here in Contra Costa, you can go to the East Bay Regional Parks website, which we also link to, where they happen to have a curriculum that was developed for by the Muwekma Ohlone people. We're in collaboration with them. So today, we're going to talk about two really big issues that are all over the United States and certainly here locally. The first one is salaries. Our teachers, everybody knows this, but the idea is we're at a point in time where we can take steps to do things. Our teachers, our workforce in education is incredibly underpaid. And people are leaving, and they're not being replaced by equally trained people. You know, we wind up, we're living in a world where folks in Florida they're bringing in military veterans, whether they've had any training whatsoever, and or their spouses. And so the qualification for being a teacher in Florida is to be a spouse of a military vet.
Wow, that's something. It's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Unless we're intentional. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, we got to do something quickly. Otherwise, we're talking about a couple of generations who won't have quality teachers, who won't, things are going to fall apart.
Right. And people won't want to become teachers.
Yeah.
Which has already started to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So that the recruitment into the profession has to be able, you have to be able to really want to become a teacher. And there are so many wonderful reasons, but you can't be expected to become a martyr. Right. When I was taught by Catholic nuns, and the sisters that taught me for the 14 years that I was taught by Catholic nuns, because I even had them in college. The sisters who taught me took a vow of poverty.
Yeah.
That was a choice. That was one of the three vows they had.
Oh, wow.
Okay, but that's long gone. But it's as if it's still here. Whenever I have this
Yeah.
conversation, I think of, oh, this sounds so much like they're living. And also, you know how they house those sisters? They house them in a communal convent, which sounds like the Milpitas situation, right?
So,
What we've talked about, where in Milpitas, they were talking about addressing the fact that their teachers are so underpaid that they can't possibly afford to live nearby. And they asked the families of students if they had a room available in their house that would be able to house a teacher.
it is just, it's incredible. Can't believe it. I mean, everybody agrees really in theory that teachers are underpaid. They need to be paid more. But it's just like a lot of other things. Okay, so what are we gonna do about it? Let's do that. And again, you know, California is one of the richest economies there is. So why we're not doing that? I guess that it just reminded me that vow of poverty must be in a small print on the teacher contract, I guess.
Yes, yeah, they brought it in, right? The sisters went home, they closed the convents, but they seem to have left that little vow of
Yeah.
poverty in there, right?
So the salaries are the big thing, the big target. But here in the Bay Area, even with, you know, some are salary, you could double the salaries, you still couldn't buy property in the Bay Area. So, so housing, then workforce housing is a real important issue. People are leaving, people are moving, or they're taking other jobs where they can afford housing. I mean, just even basic rental. So it's a severe issue. We need to look at all the possibilities, all the things that could happen, all the things that have happened and worked. So there's just, it's a big topic. And I know, you know, we need to do a first day review. What are the properties do we have countywide? What's there and what's available and what's happened in the past to try to move that forward. People take
Right.
many steps, don't they?
This is the thing. I mean, there was a newspaper article 2 days ago about San Francisco, and that San Francisco, after 20 years of conversation, had a groundbreaking for their teacher workforce housing. We have to just look at that and say, great news, you did it. Now the model has to be, you don't need 20 years to do the groundbreaking. What you need to do is recognize the issue, recognize that housing is a huge issue and we know it. It's not, there's nothing we don't know. What's missing is political will, right? In Sacramento, they had the political will. They've made changes. They've put rules and the laws in place so that, in fact, the things that had inhibited, the barriers that had existed to doing this building are gone. So now we need to have a real commitment on the part of our electeds to go ahead and do it. So that means, as you just said, looking for the property, doing an audit, right? Getting a list of what I need an audit of the properties that are in my wastewater district, my school district, my county, whatever public agency I'm attached to, and look at those properties through the eyes of whether or not those properties could be used to support my workforce.
Exactly.
Right. And this is going to help all of us. I mean, this is affordable housing. This is going to address the crisis we have in homelessness, which didn't exist before. Right. It's going to address all of these issues that come together from having housing insecurity.
Yeah.
And right now, our teaching staff has housing insecurity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is the solution. The Milpitas solution is the ultimate example of that.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it could be really hidden. That people are, what do they call them? Couch surfing, or they're, you know, maybe part in their car. And so I think it's bigger than we realize. It's not just the people on the
Well, or
tent.
they're living, 6 people in an apartment, but because not one of them could afford on his or her own to have their own place.
Yeah. So I think people need to push. They need to be pushed, but they also, and rightfully so, don't know what to do. What do we do? You know, how do we do this? And so you've got the commitment, and need to start creating the vision. Okay, what are we talking about? What is this going to look like? And that's when you go to other places that have done it or doing
Right,
it. Here,
right.
never.
And they look different ways. Different places are able to do it in different ways. You know, some places, some people donate land. Now that's not, you know, if that's, you're lucky if it happens. It can happen. It has happened, but you can't rely on that. What you have to rely on is what you have. And if you are an elected, and if you're a member of the public, you can look at what the property is. But if you're an elected, you can go ahead and have a meeting and talk about the property that you own, right? Do a little review. What do we own that we would be able to use to support our workforce and help them be able to live here? And what can we do to create more affordable housing here
Yeah.
now?
And that is the first step. Come together, sit at the table and have the discussion and do things like the audit or this, find out what do we have right now? And those creating those partnerships, that's it. That's between the districts, the cities, the counties, electeds. The electeds need to come together because the electeds are the leaders. And
Right. And that's what the political will has to exist. Right. That's what this is about. They got there because of political will. They get there because they want to lead. So then you want to lead. Then you need to say, if you're not doing anything, when you have a set of things you could do to address this issue, then the obvious thing is that this issue is not that important to you.
yeah, yeah. And it's so far reaching. I mean, I see articles about community colleges needing the housing and, city workers. And I also heard here in the Bay Area, it's about the cost is so much, but it's also in Northern California where maybe there's not so much cost, but there's no structures, there's no buildings. So they need building houses to be built or housing. Yeah. So no matter what, it's a big issue. Um, Up and down the state of California, I'm sure. It's so far reaching that we have to move and come together and create these partnerships. And the electeds need to start talking to each other for sure.
And they can. And this is the whole thing. It can be done. The examples are there. There is certainly the will of the community to address our unhoused population. Right?
Yeah.
Nobody. I mean, it's turned into a really huge political hot potato in so many ways, where people are struggling with the answers, and the answers are complicated. But this part of the answer is not as complicated. This part is build some housing,
Yeah.
right? Find a way to build housing for your workforce, right? And what would be a whole different way of looking at things if it became the norm? What if most school districts, and of course we offer, just like we now offer healthcare or you offer retirement benefits, what if it just became a norm? And of course we all offer workforce housing as an option.
Exactly. And maybe, childcare for teachers or
Yeah.
there's just so many ways. Our teachers in the county, they teach the most vulnerable kids. My heart goes out. I just cannot believe some of them have been there for 20 years, and yeah, they negotiated and they got a little raise, but it's so funny that when you talk to teachers, it's more than that. Yes, they want to be paid a living wage, but it's more than that. Acknowledge me, and like give credit, elevate this profession so you don't feel like you're just, um, you're not being paid attention to, acknowledgments and recognition. That's what is really helps the working conditions. Make sure they're safe. Make sure you've got everything, everybody's got what they need and, just compassion for what they do. And it's pretty amazing. I am in awe. And I was a teacher for 38 years, so These
It
two-
is, it's amazing. I mean, and to look at how we as a society have arrived at the conclusion that we don't have to go very far above that poverty level that those sisters bought into years ago, right? We're not much above that. And that's very sad.
Yeah, but we can do things. Next year, I'm gonna be the board president. And so I wanna, address some of these issues, put some of these in the spotlight, and I'll share how far I got on those things. So a lot of things are really have to happen. So we'll do whatever we can to push those things forward, for sure.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to give a shout out to everybody who's worked to put workforce housing into their districts. And I'll see if I'll put a list of the ones that have done it. But within locally in California, Berkeley is doing it. San Francisco is doing it. Daly City is doing it. San Jose has done it for years. So it's not as if we're saying in any way that this hasn't been done. We're saying it needs to be escalated. It needs to become a norm. It honestly needs to become a norm, because we're not going to get our salaries to where they can, our teachers and workforce teams are going to be able to live in their communities. And we can't, for so many reasons, put up with the 2-hour commutes to find a place.
In the contract, it should be a negotiated thing. It should be in the contracts as well.
Could be.
Yeah,
And that's what we're trying to do here, is raise it up so people start to look at this as part of what makes sense for us as a community.
yes, absolutely. All righty.
So that's it for this week. We'll see you again next time on Between Two Teachers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.